We have one and only one item on our agenda in this meeting, and it's a regular agenda item, and it is the Gentry on the Green General Plan Amendment and Rezoning, 3GP 2019 and 11ZN 2019. Our presenter is Adam Yaron, Project Coordination Liaison, and Brian Clough, the Senior Planner, which will probably follow you, I presume.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Adam Yaron. I'll be presenting on 3GP 2019, Gentry on the Green, this year's only major general plan amendment, and Brian Clough will follow with the applicant's zoning request. Tonight's presentation overview will include the major general plan amendment criteria and process, the 2019 major amendment request, the zoning district map amendment request, and the major general plan amendment and zoning timeline. The context aerial here presents the subject site located at the southwest corner of North Hayden Road and East Camelback Road. It's bound on its east property line of being the Greenbelt, the west property line of Parkway Avenue, and its southern boundary being the Glen Rosa alignment. Here's a more detailed context aerial. And the major amendment criteria for Scottsdale: an amendment to Scottsdale's general plan is defined as a major amendment if it meets any of the one following criteria. 1, a change in land use category; 2, area of change; 3, the character area criteria; and 4, the water wastewater infrastructure criteria. This year's amendment is triggered by the change in land use category. The applicant's requesting a change from urban neighborhoods Group C to Group E, which notates the mixed-use land use designation. So where it's indicated on our land use matrix of yes is why we have this as a major general plan amendment. Additionally, there's the area of change criteria. Given the site's location, any amendment requesting a change in land use designation greater than 10 acres or more is defined as a major amendment. The applicant's subject site is 41.5 acres in size. So the major amendment process, it's heard at City Council in the same year as it was submitted. The submittal deadline for this year's amendment was May 17th, and it's to be heard tonight at City Council's hearing on December 3rd. It requires an additional remote hearing of the Planning Commission for public input, as well as requires a 2/3 majority vote of City Council. As I mentioned, this shows the subject site, and the applicant's request being the existing general plan land use designation of urban neighborhoods on the left side of the screen before you, and the applicant's request to amend the land use designation to mixed-use neighborhoods shown on the right. The applicant proposes, as a means to implement the requested change in land use designation, a multi-phase mixed-use development comprising of both residential and non-residential uses. In Phase 1, the applicant's proposing roughly 1,200 units as part of their Phase 1 development, with supporting retail and non-residential uses. That concludes staff's long-range planning overview, and Brian will be here to present the zoning application.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Lane and members of the council. As you previously mentioned, I'm Brian Clough with the city's current planning department. I'll be giving a brief overview of the related zoning request that corresponds with the general plan amendment, which consists of a zoning request and a development plan for a planned unit development containing up to 1,864 residential units and up to 156,000 square feet of commercial floor area on the 41.5 acre site. And for the planned unit development district, there is specific criteria that the council uses to evaluate the request. This criteria is detailed specifically in your reports tonight, but briefly, it is geared towards revitalization, complying with the goals and policies, guidelines of our general plan and our character area plans. It's intended for use when the proposed uses, densities, and standards are not otherwise permitted under the current zoning district. It also looks at compatibility with adjacent land uses, necessary infrastructure needs, and it is not allowed in our environmentally sensitive lands area, which we're not in here, and requires frontage on a major or minor arterial or collector. This is a look at the current zoning map over the site, which is our multifamily residential R5 district. And you can see the surrounding zoning districts are also the R5 district, with the exception of open space that is to the east in the park area and the Indian Bend Wash. And this is the proposed zoning map showing the planned unit development district with our planned shared development overlay district as well. A quick summary of the project data. It is a proposed mixed-use development on the 41.5 acres, phase 1 totaling 26.5 acres, with phase 2 just under 15 acres. The floor area ratio that would be allowed in the planned unit development is a 0.8 ratio, being proposed as a 0.07. Building height is 48 feet allowed, plus an additional 10 feet for rooftop appurtenances. Density is capped per the proposed development plan. In this case, 45 dwelling units per acre is proposed, which totals that 1,864 units. Parking required for the phase 1 portion of the development is 1,950 spaces, and the applicant is providing 2,355 spaces plus an additional 76 on-street parking spaces on 78th Street, and that's just for the phase 1 portion. This plan here is the proposed open space plan. It identifies the open space areas, more specifically within phase 1, which is to the east of 78th Street. So this plan here shows a minimum of 36% of the site area to be dedicated as open space within the phase 1 area. And then also for phase 2, future development will be a minimum of 30% open space provided. A couple other items to note on this plan is a large public open space area that will be provided through the central spine of the development here that provides connection to the Indian Bend Wash area, and also the applicant will be talking about a bike pavilion that will be located in this area here. All new sidewalks around the perimeter development will be provided, 8-foot detached sidewalks from the street, and required parking is all provided in structured parking in these areas here, which are above-grade structures that will be surrounded by the proposed apartment buildings. And then there's an additional surface lot at the south end of the site, which would be intended for guest parking and to provide parking for any of the commercial uses that are in the establishment. This plan here is a building height plan, so you can see on the phase 1 side, the taller portions of the building at 48 feet are identified with the light blue color, and then you can see portions of the buildings along Camelback and 78th Street that step down to lower building heights with 37 feet shown in the purple, and then the green area would be 26 feet tall. And then phase 2 is approximately 15 acres of the total 41.5 acre development on the west side of 78th Street. This phase of the development is likely to be 10 or more years out in the future and may include up to 650 dwelling units in combination with 115,000 square feet of non-residential space. So you can see the configuration of phase 2 has not been identified currently. However, the same development standards that apply to phase 1, which include building height, setbacks, stepbacks, land uses, are all also applicable to phase 2, which will create the framework for which phase 2 will develop in the future. Along with the request for the planned unit development district, there are some standards that are being requested to be amended along with the application. There's 4 requests for amended standards. The first one is the planned unit development area, which the applicant is requesting to amend from a 25 acre max to 41.5 acres to accommodate the proposed development. The next 3 requests, which I'll go into further detail on, are having to do with building setbacks on Camelback and 78th Street, and then also the average building setback. This here is the proposed request for building setback amendment. The top one here being Camelback, requesting an amendment from 34 feet to 30 feet to accommodate a small portion of the site near a deceleration lane in a bus bay. And then on 78th Street, here the request from 25 feet down to 10 feet on 78th Street to accommodate reconfiguration and additional on-street parking on that side of 78th Street. So to look at that a little bit closer, this is the 78th Street condition in which they're requesting that amendment. So the closest portion of the site that's requesting the reduction down to 10 feet is shown here. And then in section view right here, so it identifies the angled parking spaces, the proposed 8-foot wide sidewalk, and the building location. This is the tightest point here that would be down to 10 feet. And then this next section up to the upper top shows another condition where the building would be set back 19 feet. And the idea here is there are a couple pinch points along 78th Street, and you can see the building does come in and out, so the average setback is substantially more than the 10 feet. And then on Camelback Road, this area right here that's identified with the black line is the portion of the site that would be requesting the amendment of the setback to accommodate the deceleration lane and bus bay here because the setback is measured from back of curb. A quick summary of the public outreach. As the case has been moving forward, the applicant did conduct 2 open house meetings. Those were on May 8th and 9th of this year. There was also a city-sponsored open house for the general plan amendment. It was held on September 12th. The standard applicant and city notifications went out along with site postings and newspaper ads. We have received a substantial amount of public comment, both in support and some opposition received. And there's been some additional support that was received earlier today, and I believe those have been left on the dais for you. And as Adam mentioned, there is a schedule that this is followed moving through the process. So this is highlighting the hearings that were conducted moving forward that Adam already briefly mentioned, and which brings us to tonight for the City Council action. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here with presentation.
Thank you, Brian. I think we may get back to you with some questions on the staff, but we'll go ahead with the applicant's presentation.
Mayor, members of the council, before I start, I just want to tell you it was so good to see Kathy Patterson, Reverend Patterson. I served on the board of Scottsdale Arts with Kathy, and it was sure was nice to see her back in the Kiva. So, Mayor, members of the council, for your record, John Barry, 6750 East Camelback Road in Scottsdale, and as Reverend Patterson noted, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. And in Scottsdale, we have much to be thankful for. And one of those things that I think we're all very thankful for is the Indian Bend Wash. But let's also be thankful for the leadership that brought us the Indian Bend Wash. And it's the result of strong leadership by people like Council Member Billy Gentry and Council Member Bill Walton that we have the Indian Bend Wash. Now this is why we celebrate Bill Walton and Billy Gentry with the name of our project, Gentry on the Green, and the Walton Bicycle Pavilion. On the left here is what the feds proposed, which was a 170-foot wide, 23-foot deep Pride of the Corps, which they built in Los Angeles at the time. And Billy and Bill stepped up and led the effort with the city of Scottsdale to create the Indian Bend Wash. Now, their leadership in creating this resulted in a massive reinvestment and transformation of the areas around the Indian Bend Wash. And our site was no exception. 47 years ago, this is our site. Hayden Road is off to the right. This is our site, both at this location and this location. You can barely see the Scottsdale Shadows Apartments at 7 stories over there. But 47 years ago, this was the height of luxury living along the Indian Bend Wash. Now, today, this is neither a point of pride for residents or a selfie spot for visitors who are going along the Indian Bend Wash. Now, 47 years later, we can do better. And we're here tonight because we think we are doing much better. With Gentry on the Green, the proposal is before you this evening, we celebrate, we embrace the Indian Bend Wash. This is a project that has more open space than required. 10% is required. We are doing 36% open space. Of that open space, 33% of the site is public open space, open to the public. But it's not just about the amount of open space, it's about the quality of that open space. We have the paseo, which staff mentioned, which is a minimum of 100 feet wide, minimum, and up to 250 feet wide. And its length is anywhere between 700 feet to the end of our property. If you include the Indian Bend Wash, it's up to 900 feet into Hayden Road. That paseo, as we call it, will be adorned with a voluntary contribution of public art, speaking of public art, a voluntary contribution of public art not required of almost $1.3 million in that publicly accessible paseo. This paseo will be anchored along the Indian Bend Wash, visible from Hayden Road, by the Walton Bicycle Pavilion. This will be the gateway to the Indian Bend Wash. Serve as like the trailhead as we do in the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve. It's a place that will be visible from Hayden. It will be something that people will talk about in terms of architecture. It's a place to rent bikes for people to meet. It will be a major boom for bicycle tourism. Now, this is the selfie spot along the Indian Bend Wash. 47 years later, what else are we doing differently with this project? Well, let's take a look at some of the edges. Because for most of our residents and visitors, they're going to experience Gentry on the Green from Camelback Road or along the Indian Bend Wash. So what are they going to experience compared with what's there today? This is what's here today. There's 31% open space along Camelback Road. Our open space will have 43% open space. That's a 39% increase in open space. But you know what? It's not about just the percentage or the amount. It's about the quality of that open space. Back in the 70s, this is walled off. And this open space, the open space is interior for the benefit of the residents. What are we doing today, 47 years later, knowing about smart growth and urban development and pedestrian connectivity? What are we doing? Along Camelback Road, there are no walls. Every one of these units on the ground floor opens up to the area in front of it on the ground floor. It's not walled off. Additionally, there will be no 4-story units along Camelback Road. They will all be 2- and 3-story spaces. What about our southern edge? We have some folks that live and have residences to the south of our property. This is the current condition, a 70-foot setback from the building to their property line. What will ours be? 135 feet, almost doubling that setback. What about the all-important Indian Bend Wash? Currently behind that gorgeous wall you saw with the palette for graffiti that's been painted over, there's 36% open space. What are we proposing? I want you to understand this. 71% open space on our property. That doesn't include the open space that the city owns in front of the Indian Bend Wash, which we will be re-landscaping and be responsible for irrigating and maintaining. So this becomes part of that open space, but not included in our percentages. The quality of that open space will be amazing with the views to the paseo. It's 900 feet away with public art in the Walton Pavilion. And all of these units, again, no walls that open up to that open space. Now, Mayor, members of the council, in conclusion, we know change is difficult. And when the Indian Bend Wash was built, that was a significant change. In fact, the property where that we're talking about today used to be a series of small family farms. That was a major change for the community back in the day. Gentry on the Green is also a change. We are asking for an additional level of height above the height already approved on the property under the current zoning. And yes, we're asking for more residential on this piece of property. And the question for you, as always with these types of cases, is do the public benefits justify the requested change? And that's a decision for you. But let me run through some of these community benefits. Bicycle tourism, an untapped source of bed tax and sales tax for our community. We've talked to Experience Scottsdale. They're very pleased with this new emphasis on public tourism. Providing connections throughout our community for people who are pedestrians or bicyclists, including a very important connection between Old Town and the Indian Bend Wash. Revitalization of this area, approximately in Phase 1 alone, a $375 million investment, leveraging our already taxpayer investment in the Indian Bend Wash. I've noted we're going to improve and beautify the Indian Bend Wash. We have a resident relocation plan that will be a first in the city of Scottsdale. You have no requirement for relocation for residents in the city of Scottsdale. We have voluntarily put together a relocation plan that is unmatched in the city's history. It will be it'll be greater than any effort at any time in the city, and we're very, very proud of that effort. In terms of public art, voluntary public art of over $1.273 million. Parking, we are overparked and substantially overparked. Project open space, 10% required, 36% provided. Public open space, is it behind a wall for the benefit of the residents who live there? No. The public open space, 0% required, 33%. In terms of sustainability, the tops of those parking garages will be covered in solar, over 2 acres of solar on this property. Permeable pavement, rainwater harvesting, over 50% of our sidewalks will be shaded. And new city revenue on an annual basis of $1.8 million. Now, Mayor and members of the council, your DRB and Planning Commission unanimously recommended to you support for this project. And if I can get kind of personal for a moment, not that you probably care, but my first zoning case in Scottsdale was in 1984 for the Mayo Clinic. And it was controversial. And there was lots of opposition, believe it or not, to putting the Mayo Clinic on East Shea Boulevard. And on the council at that time, serving her last term, was Billy Gentry. And I had the privilege of working with Billy. And it really is fulfilling for me to be able to honor her contribution to the community in so many ways by calling this Gentry on the Green. And, you know, I like to think, after working with her just a little bit in her final term, I like to think that if she were still alive and she were here today, she would, with that earnest look, I don't know if any of you had the opportunity, that earnest look, she'd look you in the eye and she'd say to us, after seeing this list of community benefits, she'd say to us, well done. Carry on. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. We do have some requests for comments from the audience here, so we may be back to you if there is any follow-up on any of that. So, or any questions, certainly, from the council. I'll start with Bill Crawford. And following him will be Carol Cohen.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. My name is Bill Crawford. As you know, I live in downtown Scottsdale. I have a business in downtown Scottsdale for going on about 22 years. And I've looked at this project and I thought, this couldn't possibly have any opposition at all. And then I wondered why it's just not on the consent agenda, except the fact that we've got to embellish how great a project this is. This is an incredible project for Scottsdale. On 40-some-odd acres, taking on 2 tired apartment complexes that they're not going to get any better over time. They'll get worse. And we know what happens when apartment complexes start to degrade. You can't get the rents that everybody else is getting, and it starts a domino effect that is not good. So here we have a developer who's able to assemble both of these aging properties together and bring forth something that really pushes Scottsdale and downtown Scottsdale and that Camelback corridor, along with the Indian Bend Wash, well into the future. People will be using this and enjoying the benefits of this when we're long gone. One of the things that is trending nationally now, and I've worked on a couple of campaigns with 2 U.S. Surgeon Generals, is walkable, rollable, human-powered transportation and integrating those into municipalities. This project is the poster child for that. It's the future. And taking this Indian Bend Wash that was walled in, uninviting, and opening up this open space, putting in retail and a bicycle pavilion and other amenities that will be enjoyed by bicycle tourists is a giant leap forward for exactly the kind of tourism that we're projecting is going to happen for Scottsdale in the future. The next generations coming to Scottsdale are coming here for very different reasons. They're coming here for a total different experience. and bicycling and enjoying the pathway is huge. This will embellish this amenity that we have citywide, and you're going to see a spike in bicycle tourism because of it. So I'd like to thank the developer for putting this project together. I'd like to thank the city staff for working close with the developer to make this a cohesive, workable win-win project for both the municipality and the private sector, which you don't often see, especially with a cherished amenity like the Indian Bend Wash. And I'd like to thank the council for, it seems like the last few times we've had projects come before you, this council has done the right thing. And you're looking into the future. You're not looking down at the ground at our immediate needs. You're looking forward to the needs of the future, and I applaud you for doing that. That is awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Carol Cohen. She'll be followed by Alex McCarron.
Good evening, Council and all attendees. I hadn't really planned on being here. It appears that I might be the only one living at Scottsdale Shadows who has an interest in this project. I am from Chicago. I lived through both Mayor Daley's. I've lived through the rest of the mayors there. My husband and family were developers, especially midtown high-rises in downtown. I applaud builders. I came from that. In the last 15 years in Scottsdale and Glenvale, all I have seen is development, though at a much slower pace. Lots of us personally and developers lost a lot of money in 2008, and I'm glad that all the parcels that have sat here for so long are being developed by those who've stashed tons of money and are able to do this. However, and I'm glad this man who's had Gentry property, and if it's the Covenant or whatever it's called down the street, and the restaurateur from Chicago who's already torn up on Camelback, and the little dental office and law office, whatever it is, next to the W. That's 4 working projects on Camelback, which is sickening. I talked to the people who represented this project when they came to our Scottsdale Shadows. The access and egress for this project are disgusting. We only have one access and egress for 834 units. The proposal for the number of units you're putting in is enormous. Then consider what you've got, the entertainment district. I just sat on a trial for disorderly conduct and drunkenness in your courts. A girl pulled down her pants and peed in the bushes in the entertainment district. They let that driver go, and then another girl working at one of the hotels was coming west on Camelback. She didn't cause an accident, but this first girl did. To cause another disorderly conduct. I'm concerned that the laws and the ordinances are going to change to allow more liquor down Camelback eastward. I don't see the buildings across the street of me. I hate to say what this man said. Yes, they're declining, but the owner does keep them up. They, on some days, happen to look better than where I live. And I feel terrible for the need to have to tear that down and displace all of the people. Another concern I have is that it was stated that this is going to be done in 10 phases. I know in Chicago you have to have a lot of money to back 10 phases. I don't know what kind of money the owner of this property has, and a 10-year phase of all the building that I've seen through the years can go down and under, and then we'll be sitting with dead-end property there. I want to talk about the swale.
Ms. Cohen, your time has expired.
Sorry, is there any way after this I can speak?
You can, no.
Okay. So long, I hope you're listening to this. I note from reading that you're the only one against a lot of this development, and maybe it's time to look at it seriously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Alex McCarron, followed by Crystal Waby.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Alex McLaren, 7624 East Osborne. I'm here to support the general plan amendment and this zoning. I think it's a good revitalization of the area in conformance with the Southern Scottsdale Character Plan. The project also includes commercial, which is on the ground floor of the buildings. And the buildings, I think there are 4 buildings in phase 1, and the buildings surround the parking structures, which I think is a good idea because it hides the parking structures. And having the commercial on the ground floor, I think, is highly advantageous. I think the major advantage for me and for a lot of the people is going to be the Indian Bend Wash connection. I live a mile away from the project. I use the Indian Bend Wash Trail a lot, and going by there and having the opportunity to stop at the pavilion will be really advantageous. And also, I think the exhibits which showed the open space, how it's going to be open to the Indian Bend Wash and Camelback Road, are also significant. Also, the public art that's going to be installed in I think it's called the Paseo, the central spine, which runs into the project and then connects to the Indian Bend Wash Pavilion. There is also 2 areas north and south of the pavilion, which are going to be very pleasant for people who are on the bike path. I looked at the economic impact study that was part of the package prepared by Mr. Pollock, and I can see that, I mean, there's an initial construction impact benefit to the city, but also the benefits which will arise from the sales tax that is generated by the project as well. Also like to comment that this is a paean to Billy Gentry and to Bill Walton as the leaders of the developing the Indian Bend Wash. So I strongly support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarron. Crystal Waby.
Hi, my name is Crystal Webby. I'm the owner of Bike Emporium in Scottsdale, 8443 East McDonald Drive. And I am in support of Gentry on the Green. I'm just really impressed with a private entity that's willing to forego building more apartment buildings in lieu of a public bike pavilion, something that has access to residents and the public, visitors. I mean, in my facility alone, I rent out so many bikes, especially now in the season, and I'm constantly asked, where can we stop? Is there any shade? Is there a safe place? Is there, anything for us to do? This will provide that for them, as well as what's on the Greenbelt now. But sometimes people want to stop. This is going to have maps in the pavilion area. That it's such a benefit. I can't express it. Just in the last month alone, I've collected over 75 signatures in full support of this. I barely even start telling them what it is, and they're, yes, we love it. We love the idea. So, again, full support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Waby. Next is Giuliani Maynard.
Hi, I'm Giovanni Mangone from Phoenix, 1929 East Montebello. Mayor, council members, thank you. I was going to speak as I've spoken.
If you could please talk, into the microphone.
I was going to talk on what I've spoken on in the past about the benefit of the Greenbelt having this facility in its central point as opposed to the anchor ends that it has now. There's sort of amenities to the north. There's amenities when you get to Tempe and nothing sort of in the middle. But that's been covered kind of ad nauseum, and I think we all see the benefit of that. But as Mr. Berry, speaking for the applicant, had said, another benefit is the open space they're talking about along the Paseo. the artwork that we're going to see, just the revitalization visually as well as the environment that they'll create. I hear opposition to the project as it's going to catalyze some of the debauchery that you get along Old Town, and I just really fail to see how a project of this prominence would do something like that. These are going to be very nice units. They're probably going to be, spendy to rent there, and I don't see how somebody who's going to want to live in a place like that will tolerate something like that, especially when, the grounds that they're on are so open and so available and so nice. I can't see this being a black eye for Scottsdale. I see it as an asset, both along the Greenbelt, which again I think is obvious to all of us, in addition to a vibrant space to live in, and really something to bolster the image of Scottsdale, which is already quite good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Doris Redlin.
City Council members and staff, I'm privileged to be here this evening to tell you that I really like living at the Visconti Apartments. I've lived there since May of 2013. It's a very safe place to live. And no, it is not trashed. The apartment management, Greystar, takes great measures to keep the property in good shape and keep the apartments in good shape. I don't see this deteriorating. If you want to develop something, why not on Heather Bray or Glen Rosa? That's really an eyesore there. I think you could do something there. In Scottsdale, we have a lot of apartments already. I know down on McDowell and Thomas, there's been a lot of construction. This project is going to add a lot of traffic to the area. Now, we already have a kind of a bicycle depot or kind of a terminal there on Osborne and Thomas. My husband and I ride down the Greenbelt pathway, and we really do enjoy it. We have full access because we walk around the property. There's already quite a wash connection. There's parks. There's lakes along the Greenbelt pathway, which is public space. I have a real problem with making a residential community public. A residential community, it seems to me, should be separate from public space. And we're integrating everything. And I wouldn't pay mega bucks to live there, to continue to live there, if it's going to be public, with all the public people coming in there, all the traffic. I just think this project could be scaled down into public and then keep a residential community residential and safe. And I like the safety of the Visconti. And I'd like to see this redone and certainly do something on Heather Bray Avenue and Glen Rosa, a real eyesore in there. If any eyesore, it's right there on Heather Bray and Glen Rosa. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Redlin. Tracy Lenyock.
You said my name right. Thank you. I live at Visconti, and I've lived there 17 years, and this is the third meeting I've come to, and I don't want to be homeless. I like where I live. I've lived there a long time. There's people, Dorothy's lived there for 35 years, Nina's lived there for 25 years, Sheila's lived there for 20-plus years, and a lot more people. And it's not an eyesore or disgusting place, but thank you for calling my home that, Mr. Barry. Yeah, he's smiling about it. It's people's homes. There's over 1,500 apartments and over 2,000 people's lives, probably more, that are going to be affected by this. There's no relocation plan. They've called me into the office. There's no relocation plan. After the first meeting, I was told the owners felt that you were sad because you were going to be homeless. How would you react to that? I have never driven one day in my life, so I walk the sidewalks constantly. I get run over by bicyclists who never utilize over 25 miles of bicycle lanes already. And what's going to happen when Mother Nature unleashes in the Indian Bend Wash and it rolls all down south? The water still hasn't receded from last week's rain. They never mention what they're going to do. They just have a pretty picture of green grass. I don't want to sound bitter or angry. I love Scottsdale. I want to live here forever and die here. I moved from Tucson and it's so much better up here. There's so much retail that already sits empty at the Fashion Square in Old Town. I walked through Old Town tonight, places I hadn't seen for a while. They're closed up. Why put in more and more and more until you fill up what you already have? I don't understand it. There's lots of places in the city that this could be done, but why destroy 3 apartment communities which have just redone to the tune of over $1 million of painting, redoing a pool, they're redoing the fitness center right now. The apartments are getting top dollar, almost $2,000 for some of the apartments they're charging there. So I just hope that you don't vote for it because I don't want to be homeless. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lenyak. Next will be Trudy Hayes.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. My name is Trudy Hayes. I live at 7531 East Khalil Circle in Scottsdale. And I am here to talk about and speak in support of Gentry on the Green. I grew up in Scottsdale. I've lived in Scottsdale almost my entire life. I have been involved in the art world in Scottsdale for over 30 years. First as a gallery director, and I am currently very proud to serve as executive director of Scottsdale Artist School. The school is located in the historic Loloma School in Old Town Scottsdale, and we've been in Scottsdale for over 36 years. So Scottsdale Artist School is dedicated to the artistic enrichment of the whole community, and we offer over 250 adult workshops and classes throughout the year, including we have a wonderful, innovative youth and teen academy. We're working hard to do our part to support arts in Scottsdale. It's extremely rare that a developer chooses voluntarily to set aside $1.3 million for public art, as Coleridge is doing for Gentry on the Green. This community-spirited contribution will bolster Scottsdale's reputation as an internationally known arts destination. A very high percentage of our students and our artist instructors at Scottsdale Artist School are from out of state, and they're hungry to see about all of the art and all of the art events that are in Scottsdale. We'll be able to guide them to Gentry on the Green as a place to visit. In addition to being able to see the sculpture and the other artworks along the Paseo, our visitors will be able to attend art exhibitions, art festivals. They could take plein air classes. As far as the green open space, that would be a beautiful space for painters with the lawn and the grove of trees and the pavilion right there on the Indian Bend Wash along Hayden. So the possibilities are really exciting. And I would hope that Gentry on the Green will create a new arts anchor and pathway leading to downtown. So I would encourage you to please vote in support of Gentry on the Green and the historic role of the arts in Scottsdale. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Next is Gabriel Klobuchar. Klobuchar.
Good evening. My name is Gabby Klobuchar, and I live at 1301 North Scottsdale Road. You may have received a number of community support letters regarding the Gentry on the Green project. I have them here today. There are 160 plus letters in support of this issue. I am submitting tonight, I'm submitting those tonight for the record. As a proud South Scottsdale resident that lives near the Indian Bend Wash, I would like to express my support and enthusiasm for the project. I'm excited for the new energy and life that Gentry will bring to the area. It provides new and appealing housing that is more consistent with the surrounding residential neighborhood. It is dedicated to creating inviting open space that could be used for community events, relaxation, picnics, and amenities for all of Scottsdale citizens to enjoy. As a young professional that lives and works in Scottsdale, I support projects that enhance and reinvigorate the area, that makes it appealing for all ages, and I look forward to it being built in my neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Klobuchar. Next would be Mary Turner.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Mary Turner. I live at 5131 North Granite Reef Road. As Gabby said before, you've received a number of support letters in favor of Gentry on the Green, one of them being the Coalition of Greater Scottsdale Board of Directors, which you should have received this morning. But I want to read one into record as well today from Ray Torres from Scottsdale Shadows that wasn't able to be here tonight but wanted his letter read into the record. So the city of Scottsdale does a terrific job ensuring quality development fits the aesthetic landscape so many Scottsdale residents enjoy. Gentry on the Green is one of those projects. Living across the street in Scottsdale Shadows and having seen the architectural renderings, the development will contribute significantly to the area. One of the amenities of living in Scottsdale Shadows is our golf course. Parts of it is on the Indian Bend Wash and beautifies the Hayden Road streetscape. Gentry on the Green project will do that same thing. It will utilize and revitalize the wash area next to the site, including bicycling, and would provide many interesting public spaces. The spaces will not only be available for Gentry on the Green residents, but for the neighbors in the area. This project is no different from other developments, in that it will be completed in phases, which usually means less disruption for the neighbors overall. Thus, I anticipate minimal congestion as I egress and ingress into Scottsdale Shadows daily, as do many others who live in the area. In short, Gentry on the Green development would be a wonderful addition to the greater Scottsdale downtown area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Next would be Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander, 9976 East Jasmine Drive. I am a biker. I love biking. I've ridden the Greenbelt end to end hundreds of times. Most recently, probably 3 weeks ago, to a soccer tournament one of my kids had in South Tempe. Went from Westworld all the way down to South Tempe. Almost none of it was on surface streets. And the Greenbelt is the core of all that. The Greenbelt is like just a greatest hits going through Scottsdale. Practically every mile there's something interesting, something cool to look at. And this is going to add to that excitement, not just for the Paseo, but the entire landscaping that it's providing is going to replace a large area that, while interesting, is not that exciting, as the pictures have shown. It's a little bit dated. As a hub for activity, there's really nothing on the Greenbelt for about 6-7 miles north till the Mercado and McCormick Ranch, and maybe 7 or so miles south till Sing Meadows. So you're going to have this retail element bringing activity and interest to the Greenbelt. I love what the Bicycle Emporium folks have proposed. They're doing successful rentals now, which not a lot of people in Scottsdale do, and it's going to add an element of commerce and tax and retail to our Greenbelt. It's going to enhance our overall tourism experience. There are other things to really like about this project beyond my obviously narrow aspect from biking. First is that it's infill done right. It is bringing the right mindset of new tenants to this infill area. Cars are cool in the suburbs. Walkability is great where it's dense. It's when the two conflict, obviously, that we have problems. So I love the idea of folks moving into this with a predisposition toward biking, toward a less car-centric lifestyle. That's a really healthy balance. Now, a lot of us in Scottsdale say you can't live without a car. You can't live in a two-adult family with only one car. And that's really, I think, a factor of our bias as a car-driven city. You can absolutely get by without a car in the right areas with the right opportunities if you are into biking. There are grocery stores, several of them, within a mile of this location. You can get to Old Town and back, do your shopping, go to your dentist, do all your day-to-day activity with minimal car elements. Finally, I love the relocation plan for this project. It is really one of the best I've ever seen in my short experience, and from talking to others, it's one of the best they've ever seen. The fact that COGS has come out in support of this relocation plan, when they'd initially voiced some opposition some months ago to this, really speaks highly of how thorough they've approached this whole situation. It's obviously unfortunate when residents are going to be disrupted, but they've provided an exit strategy that's incredibly compassionate and thoughtful to those folks who are affected. So I hope you will vote in favor of this project for all the reasons I've mentioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. I believe it's Andrea Lee Foreman.
Mayors, members of council, my name's Andrea Foreman, and I'm a property owner in near the Pyote Neighborhood Center. I've previously served on the Building Board of Appeals, the Development Review Board for 9 years, Scottsdale Public Art Board for almost 12 years. I was also a member of the design team that created the artwork along the Pima Highway in North Scottsdale. Scottsdale can and should take pride in the projects that seek to integrate art in their projects, especially a large development such as what is before you today. The Greenbelt has always been popular with our residents, and this project offers to double down on their enjoyment and invite them to linger a while, especially during our summer months. This project's inviting both to its future residents and the community at large. Its location is great as a hub for downtown to the west, baseball and light rail connections to the south, and the great outdoors to the north. And along the way in all directions are many of the city's current public art projects. Placed along the Greenbelt, this project is wonderfully situated to add to that collection. And as an architect and appreciation of public art everywhere, I'd have to say that this is a good location for that kind of integrated project. I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foreman. That completes public testimony on this project, this agenda item. So I would invite Mr. Berry, as he heads to the podium, to come back and respond to the items if he needs to.
Mayor, members of the council, a couple of quick things. One is, I think, the reason you didn't see more people here from Scottsdale Shadows, which, by the way, is a very well-organized group, is because we have held meetings specifically for the Scottsdale Shadows folks to communicate with them and be transparent with them. And you had a very impressive letter from Ray Torres in support of the project. So we've worked very closely with the residents at Scottsdale Shadows. And I can assure Tracy that she will not be homeless, at least not for a long time, and it won't be because of us. This project, as you've heard, will take place in phases, and I want to go through our relocation plan. I really think it's important that, and Mr. Alexander talked about compassion, and my clients who are here this evening are from Southern California, and it's been very impressive, the level of knowledge and compassion that they've brought to this concept of relocation. This is not new for them, and they understand it, and they've had a great deal of experience with it, and I'm very proud to be associated with it. The community is familiar with some recent experiences in southern Scottsdale that involved the displacement of some residents who lived in a trailer park, and the community came together and rallied around to help them in the private sector. But in this instance, it's the developer who's stepping up and helping to assist with those types of issues for relocation. But again, I have to stress, this will be 10 to 15 years away, most likely, before there will be a need for that type of relocation. But let me just go through our relocation plan. And again, I'm not aware of any plan like this that's ever been brought forward to the City Council. That maybe this will become a standard. Coleridge will have a designated point of contact for proactive communication and responsiveness. They've already identified that person. There'll be quarterly updates to the tenants as to what's going on. There'll be a minimum, and I want to stress the minimum, of a 1-year notice prior to construction start of any of the phases. And keep in mind that the longest lease that anybody has in that development is a year. Residents will have priority selection of comparable units and the other residential projects that are available on site. So as one phase is built, they'll have the opportunity to move to another comparable unit on site that isn't being developed at this time. So they'll be able to move from phase to phase if they wish. Coleridge will assist with moving logistics, including scheduling, moving company recommendations, and negotiated discounts. They will provide staff assistance and coordination for day of moving expenses to move to other Coleridge-owned properties for long-term residents who can show need. They will provide those moving expenses for them. And Coleridge owns other properties in the area independent of these 40 acres we're talking about, and they can, at their choice, move to these other properties owned by Coleridge, and they will again assist with the moving and with ensuring that they get comparable units. And I'd also note that these existing projects have comparable rents to what exists today. So this relocation program is something that has never been done before, to my knowledge, in the city of Scottsdale, certainly not by the private sector. And my client, and we are very proud of this, is designed to bring certainty and peace of mind to folks who are living in that community. Mayor, members of the council, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Yes, we have some comments or questions. I'll start with Vice Mayor Littlefield.
Thank you. Mr. Berry, you have to go back. I have some questions for you. As you know, I'm pretty happy with this project. I think it's an excellent project for Scottsdale and for this location, but I do have some questions and some concerns. One of them you just answered about what the relocation policy was going to be, what the plan was, because I don't want to displace 1,000 to 2,000 homes and put those people out on the street. That would not be acceptable. Another question I had on all this open space: who's maintaining the open space? Is this an HOA or management company, maintenance company that you're going to hire? Who's going to be maintaining it?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Littlefield, it will be a property management company that will be responsible for the maintenance of all of the open space. And I would note also we're responsible for the maintenance of the city's own property along the Indian Bend Wash, along the length of this property. So we will also be maintaining that. And I think if you look at an aerial or just drive by and you see the Scottsdale Shadows, which is maintained and owned by Scottsdale Shadows, versus the property which is owned and maintained by the city of Scottsdale, if you just pull up the aerial, it's very evident to see the quality of the maintenance associated with those properties. So we're proud to say that this will look a whole lot more like Scottsdale Shadows portion of the Indian Bend Wash than what it currently looks like today. And again, that's on our dime, and you'll see it in the stipulations. It's very specifically called out.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, one of the speakers noted that there was only one access point, entrance, exit. Is that okay with the police and fire for this many people for this larger space?
Mayor Lane, Vice Mayor Littlefield, the short answer is yes. We wouldn't have gotten to any hearing, Development Review Board, Planning Commission, or you, without this being thoroughly vetted for public safety concerns. And as we move forward with each phase, they'll have to go through the very specific Development Review Board process, the public hearing process. Then when they get into their construction drawings and try and pull permits, it will be reviewed again. So the City of Scottsdale is well known for the strength in their reviews of ensuring strong public safety and life safety systems. So yes.
Okay, and also, finally, I wanted to ask you, what is your price target for these apartments and condos, say on a monthly basis? How much would people, if I wanted to go rent a one-bedroom apartment, how much would I be paying per month? Approximately. I realize that's a large question.
Would you give me just a moment?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there'll be two of you in the apartment? So we just want to understand
Yeah, I'll
the
bring him
rent of
along.
Okay. My client has informed me that it's approximately $1,500 to $1,800 a month for a one-bedroom unit. We'd be happy to put you on the list if that's something you're interested in.
Don't know. Are you going to allow pets? Is there a pet area of any kind?
I'm seeing either a wagging of the tail or a nodding of the head. The answer to that is yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Cordy.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm a little confused on how many phases. Is it phase 1, phase 2, phase 10, 10 years, 20? Help me understand this.
Mayor Lane, Councilmember Cordy, there will be 2 overall phases, which staff presented to you. So there'll be 2 phases as identified in your staff report. We anticipate that the first phase will take approximately 10 years to build out, but if you can predict recessions and interest rates, we'd be happy to understand that better. It could be faster, could be slower, but we anticipate about a 10-year phase 1, and before we moved across the street to the west to begin development of the remaining 15 acres.
And I'm assuming that your commitment to 30% open space pertains to both phases?
Mayor Lane, Councilmember Cordy, the answer to that is yes, and all of the development standards, heights, setbacks, stepbacks, minimum open space are in the stipulations as requirements for phase 2. So it will be a seamless transition on the open space, the setbacks, those types of very important aesthetic elements for the community.
Which speaks to that Paseo Drive or that Paseo open space and the public art. Can you talk more about what that is about and who's going to administer the public art? I assume the $1.3 million is going to be reinvested into the Paseo area, but could you talk about that more?
Mayor Lane, Councilmember Cordy, no.
Okay, let's
And the reason the answer is no, rarely heard from a lawyer, at least from me. The reason for that is because I have no aesthetic sense at all, hence my outfit. I would ask Betty Drake, who is our art and pedestrian plaza and pedestrian space consultant, if you would mind if she could answer that question more completely and better than I ever would.
Thank you for knowing your
Well, thank you, Mr. Berry. I'm Betty Drake, 8003 East Del Tornasol in Scottsdale. I've lived at that same location for over 32 years now. I've been a resident. I've sat on the city council like you, as well as DR board, the public art board, and just about every other committee there is. And for 50 years, I've been working on livable cities, bicycle transportation, public art, and things we can do to make cities special and unique places, everything from Honolulu to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I was really, really excited to have the chance to work on this project because the coal-rich folks really get it. They really understand what makes a city and a development tick, fit in, and be truly beneficial to the whole community. The open space in the Paseo is 160% bigger than that on Scottsdale waterfront. Whoops. And it's going to be a whole series of experiences. This can truly become the gateway to the green belt. It'll be a trailhead at the end, a tourist destination, as people have said. It'll be a place to splash, a place where adults can dip their toe in the waters in addition to kids doing so. And there's a great opportunity for artist involvement in a lot of the water features we're thinking about. And then you get down to the end, the bicycle pavilion, the Walton Pavilion now. It's going to be our connection to the Greenbelt. This is going to be a huge step toward connecting Old Town with Indian Bend Wash, which has been an objective of the city for years and years and years. There'll be bicycle rentals. Experience Scottsdale is going to have a place there. There'll be art, of course, and exhibits about the history of Indian Bend Wash, history of Scottsdale, and a place where a lot of things can happen, as well as restrooms, hopefully coffee and maybe ice cream. And on the north and south sides of this are what we're calling the Grove and the Great Lawn. To the north is going to be a big shady grove of trees where you can have a picnic, hang out in the summer with art around and lights and even maybe an adult playground, sort of the things you see at Canal Convergence sometimes. And on the south will be a very large lawn that people have talked about for everyone to enjoy and for events. So this is a major new downtown open space, paid for entirely by the developers, and it's really worthy of the art, the bicycling, the walking, and the quality of life that's really embedded in Scottsdale's DNA. So it's been a pleasure and a privilege to work on it, and I'll turn it back to Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. I think that gives not only me but members of the public a better feel for really the thoughtful process that has gone into this project. So I tip my hat off to the Coleridge Group bringing forward this great project. I'd liked it from the very beginning, and I like it a lot more now because of the amenities and the rich components that have been brought into this as a not only as a sense of place and a great place to live, but a community benefit. What a great combination that is. So with that, I would like to make the motion to adopt resolution number 11650, adopt ordinance number 4431, adopt resolution number 11653, and adopt resolution number 11651.
Second. Motion's been made as has been stated and seconded by, motion's been made by Councilwoman Cordy and seconded by Councilman Phillips. Mr. Phillips or Councilman Phillips, would you like to speak toward it?
Well, it's a great project. I think it's been thoroughly vetted. Everybody loves it, and I think it's going to be a good part of our city. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. So motion been made and seconded. Councilwoman Clapper, would you have some comment?
Yes, I think it's a great project too, and I like the emphasis on bicycle tourism that's involved in this project. And you probably read in the paper or on the internet in the last couple of days that Scottsdale's been called a gold level bicycle city now. And I'm of hopes that a project like this will help us move the needle to make us a platinum level bicycle city, because I think that Scottsdale needs to be even more recognized for the bicycle community here, and the emphasis on bicycle tourism is something that we need to toot our horn about. And we have talked, as Betty said, a number of times about tying the downtown to the Greenbelt, and there was a discussion a few years ago about having a major bicycle event in Scottsdale. I think it was presented by by the task force. And I think that this would be a great place to possibly kick that off and have more of a large bicycle event in Scottsdale, tying together, particularly there's the bike race that's up north. That could be tied to this. There's just so many things that we could do with a project such as this that has a bicycle orientation to it. I also want to make a note that I do like the idea of no walls around the project, because in working on a project down in South Scottsdale a few years ago, what we were hearing from the neighbors there is they like South Scottsdale because it doesn't have walls. because they think of North Scottsdale as having walls, but not their neighborhoods. And so it gives a much more neighborhood feel when there are no walls. And so I believe that this will be a nice, for something of this size, to be a nice diversion from the concept of walling everything in, and let's open it up to the public and open it up to the community. It's a great idea, and I fully support it. So I will be voting for the project.
Thank you, Councilwoman. You know, I will certainly be supporting it. I think it's been one of those extraordinary events where I think that Coleridge has gone above and beyond, absolutely, and from the very start. Any even slight concern that I've had with regard to the project has been answered here or previous to this meeting tonight. But I am just thankful, and I want to thank Coleridge for what they have brought to the table and the example that they've set here. To me, this is almost extraordinary in its appointment to or consideration of just about every aspect of those things that we try to work and consider with regard to the Greenbelt and incorporating that into its use. It wasn't that many years ago we talked about how most of the development on the Greenbelt had its back toward the Greenbelt. And obviously this isn't front or back necessarily, but it's entirely open. It's not walled off in any way, shape, or form, which has been a conscious consideration as to how we were going to continue to be able to improve not only the quality of the Greenbelt, but also the use of it. And of course now with the art that's voluntarily contributed on this site too, the openness, I think it goes without saying. It's more indicative of what we're trying to have here in downtown Scottsdale, in this area. And certainly we do know that there are private areas for the apartments themselves that are not part of that component, but nevertheless, for the very most part, that almost all of that 36% of open space is available to the public. So I just want to congratulate Coleridge on bringing this forward, and the entire team who put it together. So thank you very much for that, and I certainly will be voting for it. And I think that anyone that even had hesitation with it, will find this to be a great asset for our city. So with that, I think we have the motion and a second, and there is no further comment. We're ready then to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by aye and register your vote. Aye. It's unanimous. So thank everyone for participating, pro and con, in this process. And want to thank Mr. Berry, the developer, and the owners. So thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Well, that was the one and only item we had on our agenda for tonight. Took us a little while, but nevertheless, it was worthy of good discussion. And I want to again thank everyone for that. I have no further public comment, no mayor or council items. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, please indicate by aye. Aye. We are